Welcome to Cook the Garden Podcast, your weekly audio source for delicious and easy garden fresh recipes and growing tips. I'm your host, Ginain Grays. Let's cook the garden. Soup lovers, I have a treat for you today. So we're going to be talking about my favorite way to use up those garden vegetables and herbs. You guessed it, by making soups. So soups are just a fantastic way to use up your produce from the garden, especially during harvest season when you have an abundance of fresh fruits and vegetables. They're also a really great way to use up your one-off items that you may have sitting around in your pantry or your fridge. If you love making garden to bowl soups, check out episode number 6 from season 1. That's where I shared my delicious Cajun cauliflower cheese soup, and that one is always a hit around here. So I'll include the link to that episode in the show notes. You've got to try it out. It's fantastic, and you're absolutely going to love it. You really are. So here are just a few reasons why soups are just a great way to use up your garden produce. First of all, the versatility of soups, okay? You can use almost any kind of vegetable or herb in your soup, which means you can get really creative and use up whatever you have on hand or just whatever you have walking through your garden. This is also a really great way to prevent food waste and just to ensure that nothing goes to waste. That's one of my big pushes this year is just really, being mindful about how we're consuming our foods, but then, keeping waste at a minimum. So just finding ways that we can continue to give back to the earth and put back into your garden. And just, making the best of what we have on hand. So that's just a really big plus and something I'm really passionate about as well. And of course, you have to consider the health benefits. Soups are a great way to pack in a ton of nutrition, especially if you're using, fresh, whole ingredients. You're going to get all of those nutrients within those ingredients. And by using fresh vegetables and herbs from your garden, you can definitely ensure that your soup is packed with all the vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, all of that good stuff. So you just can't go wrong. You really can't. And then, of course, the ease, right? They're so easy to make. Today's recipe that I'm going to share with you guys, it's so incredibly easy and you're going to love it. So I can't wait to share that. I'll share that in a little bit. But yeah, soups are one of the easiest things to make in the kitchen. Of course, all you need is a pot, some vegetables, and your liquid base. And you can also make like a huge batch of soups and freeze it. I love doing that. It really just helps get me out of bind sometimes when I have, just life happens, right? You have those busy weeks or just those unforeseen events that happen. It's always nice to be able to break out a pot of soup from the freezer, warm it up, and you're good to go, right? So it just makes meal planning a breeze. So they're super easy to make. And then another reason why soups are amazing is they're comforting. I mean, who doesn't love just a delicious bowl of soup on, a cool day? Although, by the way, I have to say this, those of you who've listened to season 1, you all know that I eat soup like throughout the year. I'm not one of those people that just, I just want it during the colder months. Um, and we're still in soup season for a lot of folks. Although I'm in Florida, so it's starting to warm up quite nicely here. It's early March. Um, it's still cold in a lot of areas in the U.S. and beyond, because hopefully we have people listening from all over the world. I hope so. But yeah, so it's still soup season. But there's just something about a hot bowl of soup that just it feels comforting and cozy. Especially like I said, if you're in the colder areas, but also if you're not feeling well, there's just it's so comforting. And by incorporating your fresh produce from your garden into your soups, you can really create delicious and nurturing meals that they're just perfect for warming you up and making you feel good. So, that alone is just a huge, huge benefit to making soups. So, before we jump into the recipe, I wanted to share just a few tried and true tips that I have for making a soup. So, first, you want to start with the base. A good soup base can make all the difference in the world. And you can make a soup base with a variety of vegetables, such as onions, garlic, carrots, celery, and leeks. These vegetables provide flavor and also nutrients that will go into your soup, and it also helps to thicken it. Of course, using fresh herbs. Fresh herbs add depth, it adds flavor to your soups. Some popular herbs that I use in my soups are parsley, thyme, basil, rosemary. There are just so many. You can get so creative with the different flavors. Um, Adding fresh herbs at the end of cooking can also help brighten it up and it adds flavor to your soup. And as far as adding root vegetables, I always like to include a root vegetable, such as a sweet potato, regular potatoes, carrots, parsnips. These are all really great additions to soups because they add a little bit of hardiness, a little bit of texture, and also potatoes, root vegetables have a little bit of has a sweet flavor to it. Um, so there's that as well. And then you want to experiment with leafy greens like your kales, spinach, Swiss chard. Those can be added to your soups as well. They add a bunch of nutrients. It adds texture, and they can be added towards the end of the cooking process so they don't get overcooked. Typically, your spinaches, your kales usually cook a little quicker, so make sure to add them towards the end of the your cooking process. And then, of course, don't forget about peppers and tomatoes. I love adding peppers and tomatoes. They add brightness, a nice pop of color. They add lots of flavor, and they can be used fresh, or you can also use canned as well. So get creative with your spices also. Spices add another, just depth and complexity to your soup. Some popular spices that I use a lot: cumin, chili pepper, oregano, thyme, basil. I mean, it runs the gamut. So definitely play around with all of those flavors, but these are all just ways um, you can make a delicious and nutritious soup using the bounty from your garden. And there's nothing better than being able to do that. So don't be afraid to experiment with different combinations and ingredients. You'll be surprised. You might surprise yourself if you try something new. You may love it. So I always encourage just try new things and experiment in the kitchen. Now, let's talk about this soup recipe that I've been teasing all episode long. Today, I'm going to share my one of my favorite ones. This is my Southwest Vegan Lentil Soup. This soup is packed with protein, fiber, and of course, lots of flavor. Thanks to lentils, all of the vegetables it has in there, all of the spices, and it's so incredibly easy to make, which is also a plus. All right, so let's jump into the recipe. Here are the ingredients that you'll need. You'll need 1 can of black beans, and if you're not a fan of black beans, you can use any type of bean. Um, 1 can of coconut milk, 1 can of diced tomatoes, or you can use fresh as well. A lot of times I use a combination of fresh and the canned diced tomatoes. So you do whatever you have on hand, that's what you go with. I typically use the fire roasted diced tomatoes, but you can use any flavor that you have. 3/4 cup of split red lentils, 4 to 5 cloves of garlic, 1 juice of lime, 3 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 red onion, 1 bunch of fresh cilantro, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 tablespoon of cumin, 32 ounces of vegetable broth, 1 teaspoon chili peppers, salt and pepper to taste, and a few optional items I have. If you wanted to add some corn, you can use canned corn or fresh corn, um, 1 jalapeno, sour cream for your topping, tortilla strips also for topping, and whatever additional toppings you would like to add to your soup, feel free to add those. So let's get started with the directions. So in a large pot, you want to heat your olive oil on medium-high heat. Add the red onion and cook that for a few minutes, stirring frequently until they become nice and tender. Now add the garlic, cumin, chili powder, chilies, and stir frequently for about 2 minutes. Now you're going to add your beans, your black beans, whatever beans you have, your lentils, tomatoes, vegetable broth, coconut milk, salt and pepper, and you're going to stir to combine those all together. Now, if you're also adding corn, this is when you want to do that as well. So you're going to bring that to a simmer over medium heat, and then you're going to cover that. Reduce the heat to medium low, and then you're going to simmer um, covered as well for about 5 minutes or until the lentils are cooked thoroughly. Next, you want to add juice of 1 lime, and you want to season to taste with salt and pepper. And so for your last step here, you're going to go ahead and garnish with your favorite toppings. You can add your sour cream, jalapeno slices, tortilla strips, whatever you want. Go to town on that. And that's it. That is it. So super simple. Now, if you double up on the recipe, you can actually have enough to freeze for later. So if you can do that, I definitely would recommend it because this is going to be a hit. I just know it. So just to sum it up again, this Southwest Vegan Lentil Soup is a great way to use up just a variety of those garden goodies that you have, all of those fresh vegetables and herbs that you have growing in your garden that you maybe pick up from your CSA or your local grocery store or farmer's market. You can put it all in this soup. It's absolutely delicious. It's also vegan, it's gluten-free, and it's packed with so much nutrition. So if you want to go the non-vegan route, all you do is add your favorite protein and you're good. So I really hope you enjoy making this soup as much as I do. Next time you're in a mood for a delicious soup, something cozy, comforting, try making this recipe. Of course, I will include the full recipe link in the show notes. Let's remember to connect in between episodes. You can find me on Instagram at Cook the Garden. Also, I invite you to join our new Facebook community. It's called Cook the Garden, Recipes and Gardening Tips. So I really hope you guys can join us, and I really look forward to next week. Have a blessed week, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Cook the Garden. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. As a new podcast, it really helps to add value while growing our awesome community. As always, I really appreciate it. Until next time, friends, keep slaying those garden fresh recipes.